4 for the Seesaw is the 13th episode of the 4th season of Frasier. This is directed by Jeff Melman, and as always, there will be spoilers from now as I go through the episode and share some thoughts. And I hate the introduction. Frasier is getting a flu shot on air, which is not a bad idea, because you're hearing somebody doing something that they are allegedly afraid of without actually having to see it. But unfortunately, we, the viewer, have to kind of see it. And we don't see the moment the needle goes into Frasier's skin, but we hear them talking about it, and Martin and Daphne are there, and then the doctor arrives, and that's when I started to get very anxious, when Frasier rolls up his arm. In fact, I shouldn't even be talking about it, because if anybody else feels the same way I do, it's not a pleasant experience, let's put it that way. I'm very scared of needles. Didn't love it. Let's move on from that. And Frasier and Niles are then in Cafe Nervosa, and there are no tables, but there are 2 seats free next to 2 women, so they decide to very politely ask the women if they'd mind if they just sat there until another table opened up, and the women are very happy to allow them to do this. And this is Laura, played by Lisa Darr, and Beth, played by Megan Mullally, and they ask the women what they do, and they design kitchens. And Frasier and Niles are really excited about this because they know a lot about kitchens. They obviously like interior design. And Beth and Laura are not used to guys responding in that way, and instantly they hit it off. They're getting on really well. The next thing we know, Frasier and Niles are bringing them back to Frasier's apartment, and they're having a drink, and Martin's there, and Martin was really lovely. He was really welcoming to them, and it was just really sweet for him to respond to them that way, because it must be strange to have somebody frequently bringing people back to the apartment when you don't know who they are, and that's your home, you live there, and there are strange people in there, but that doesn't seem to bother Martin. He's just very warm and welcoming, which is really lovely to see. And Martin tells Frasier that he was supposed to be going to the cabin with Sherry at the weekend, but unfortunately they can't go now, so they paid for it, so it's free for them to use if either of them want to go up there. And initially, Frasier and Niles say that they already have plans with Laura and Beth, but then they end up deciding that they can all go up to the cabin, and they go there. And once we get there, it's really nice, really relaxed atmosphere, really nice set, and then Frasier and Niles start to wonder if Laura and Beth think that this is a romantic weekend or if it's more of a platonic trip. Niles comes up with a solution to use their luggage to get them to find out, which seems clever but also seems unnecessary. And then we have this gorgeous shot, beautifully done, where initially we just see the backs of the 4 characters where they're standing looking out of this window, and then we see them from the other side looking through the window, and there's snow on the window ledge, and it's really beautiful, but it's still not 100% clear what Beth's and Laura's intentions are. We then cut back to the apartment, and Daphne is ill with the flu because Martin wouldn't let her get the flu shot. And then Martin does something that is really sweet. He agrees to read to Daphne because it's something Grammy Moon used to do to her when she was unwell, and Martin starts reading the book, and initially he's all for it, and then he realises it's a dirty book. Or at least the chapter itself is particularly heavy going. And to his credit, he continues reading. He's squirming. Very funny. But he continues reading until he realises Daphne is asleep and decides to make things up just to check she wasn't listening anymore, which I thought was very entertaining. We then are back in the cabin, and Frasier and Niles are still not 100% sure. They wish they had a clear sign, and then one of them says, "Well, I'm off to bed. Niles, are you coming?" I don't think it gets much clearer than that. It seems like everything's going to plan, and then it doesn't. Niles phones Maris because he's not sure if they're allowed to be seeing other people. He's still not quite grasping the concept that they are separated now. And Maris says, yes, it's fine. And then initially Niles is happy with this, but then he begins to worry, well, does that mean Maris has been sleeping with other people? And Frasier is very annoyed at Niles. He's basically in a state of undress, and he starts ranting at Niles about how he's ruining his weekend, and unfortunately the women overhear Frasier saying, not very pleasant things about them, basically saying that they're objects for this weekend rather than real people, which is not very pleasant. And there we have the end of their weekend. It didn't exactly go according to plan, and it's such a shame because who knows what could have become of that weekend. But it's an entertaining episode. Nice to have some new characters in, nice to have a different environment, a change of pace, and for me, Martin was a big highlight in this as well. He wasn't in it, obviously, all of the way through, but what we got was certainly really enjoyable. 4 for the Seesaw is an entertaining episode, definitely very funny. Not my favourite beginning to an episode, really don't like the opening scene, but aside from that, it's pretty decent.